the element of parentification that we often don't talk about or don't focus in on is, okay, this is an element. Now, how do I unwind from this parentification? What do I do when I feel as though everyone else's response or everyone else's well-being, even if I don't know them, is my responsibility?
Or the responsibility of stop having children if you can't take care of them, which I know we already did an episode about that of, intelligent parenting. It's like, listen, I'm just going to say it. Don't have kids if you can't take care of them. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
I don't know how much on this show we've talked about birth order. Um, that's not what we're going to be diving into today, but I want to start with an example. There's a lot of um, there's a lot of content out there, and I think a lot of us know the stereotypes of the birth order rankings. So, like, the first child is the perfectionist, and they think that they know everything, and they're like more anal and type A. The middle child is more of like the rebellious, rambunctious one, and then the third child is usually like the baby of the family, and they're like the prince or the princess, and like they can't do anything wrong, whatever. The reason I say that is because if you actually look at like why that tends to happen, it usually, not always, I'm not having this be a blanket example, but a lot of the times what happens is the first child ends up becoming responsible for the other two siblings. So when they get to a certain age, it's like, well, you're the older one, so you have to take care of your siblings and blah, 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 blah. And that can lead to a child being parentified,
Mhm.
where they are now a child being responsible for taking care of the other people in their family. This doesn't always happen. Again, I want to be very mindful of that. What we're talking about in this episode is the extreme version of that, which is a parentified child is a child who ended up becoming responsible not only for the physical and emotional well-being of their parents, but of their siblings, but also of their parents,
Mhm.
because their parents were not capable of physically, emotionally, financially, socially taking care of themselves or their kids. And so the child ends up taking whatever birth order it is, one of the children or all of them end up taking significant responsibility and end up becoming a quote unquote child parent.
Woof. I have a lot in the can for this one. So yes, beautiful start. I want to share everyone to a moment in time of my past where I had been dating someone who was one out of 11 different children.
Oh my.
11 children. Now,
That
why
poor mom.
do I say this? Yes and no. And I will say that candidly in this. Why? Because I saw and firsthand and experienced the parentification of every single child of those 11 in their own different form. And it like, there was
It's awful.
at one point, it was like I was saying, I caught myself saying to myself, like, wow, I'm so envious of how bonded these 11 siblings were to each other because they all had to take care of everything. Mom and dad essentially just like came in and came out and did whatever and had this like queen and king type of fiefdom mentality when it came to their children. And at one point, I was, like, really, really envious of that because my siblings were not,
Yeah.
parentified to the extent that these kids were, right? And these were all adults at this time. But then I started to realize the really dark side of this and recognize that, like, wow, from the first of the 11 to the 11th, none of them have ever really had an opportunity to be a child, like an innocent child, and not have an extraordinarily difficult and arduous trek of
Mm.
responsibility being forced down their throat at a very young age where they were not emotionally capable of handling that. So, for example, the the child care, it was like one sibling is helping to raise the other child, right? There was like 6 girls or 6 boys and 5 girls. Like it was like they all slept together in these room. It was just wild. And again, why do I mention that in this context? The amount of responsibility, the first women were given the responsibilities of the mother. So, cooking, cleaning, changing diapers, all of these things. And the narrative that the parents had, well, that helps teach them responsibility. And while that's true, it also wildly neglects how fundamental it is for child development to occur and to do so in a way in which allows really, really important neurochemical, emotional, social functioning to actually happen at really important developmental stages. And so each one of them, I could see their own different, whether it was cognitive, social, emotional, or a combination of all of that, dysfunctions. And what that created and what that resulted in was a wildly dysfunctional family. And from the outside looking in, it looked very perfect. But from the inside looking out, it was like, holy crap. Not one of these kids, not one of these adults actually had the opportunity to be a child because mom and dad just gave all the forced, not just gave, forced all the responsibility. But hmm, the really sad part about this, the really sad part about this was the parents had their own narrative that this is what was best for the kids without any humility as to what the downside of that would be.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at a radio station here in central Massachusetts. I've been a part of the Evolve team for about a year now, and I can say it's been nothing but great. Kind of diving into myself and realizing that I need to step out of my comfort zone and build that confidence in my insecurities, but also maintaining who I am as a person. You know, this is a community that's not forcing anything upon you, that wants you to feel nothing but welcome. And it's just super genuine and super honest too, which I like. And again, just recognizing that you are your own person on your own journey, but everybody in the community is here with you. And, you know, we're all at different stages in life, and that's a very important thing to recognize. So Emilia, Bianca, and Derek especially have helped me get to the point where I'm able to kind of excel in my career and in my personal life.
Or the responsibility of stop having children if you can't take care of them, which I know we already did an episode about that of, intelligent parenting. It's like listen, I'm just going to say it. Don't have kids if you can't take care of them. Don't have kids. Like, you are neglecting your child. Your child is not meant to take care of you. Like, I'm
Or
gonna
their
say this
siblings.
and I'm gonna sound 100%. 100%. I'm gonna say this and I know this might hurt a lot of people, but, like, it has to be said when I hear people saying, "I want kids so I can have someone to take care of me in my old age." That is not the responsibility of your children to take care of you in your old age. You bring a child into this world so they can be their own full-fledged, autonomous, independent being. When we put this unruly amount of responsibility on children to be adults and to take care of us and to meet our own emotional needs, that's not what they're there for. Children are not there to emotionally regulate us or to make us feel loved or to make us feel whatever. And when people irresponsibly have children and bring them into this world when they don't have the emotional, social, financial, mental, physical capabilities of taking care of that child, you are doing severe harm. And that's when you end up becoming a parentified child because you learn from a young age, mom, dad, whomever can't take care of themselves. And I'm not safe here. My needs aren't being met. So I have to learn how to do this on my own. And I have to take care of this fully functioning adult. So you learn adults aren't safe. You learn other people aren't safe. And then what? You can't function properly in the world.
Mm. It creates a them before me
Mm,
experience. And I have a client that came to mind where she and I had a call, and for the first time, she's really realizing, like, holy crap, like, since a young age, I did everything to put the puzzle pieces together for my family. And she's a great representation of parentification because since from a young age, she had to do everything in the household. She had to make sure that her siblings were okay emotionally, right?
yeah.
Psychologically. There was a lot of household elements that needed to be designed in a way that had her at the head of essentially the household without any of the credit, and while also being chastised as a child. So if you're someone who is resonating with this episode and it's you're asking, okay, well, how do I know if I was like my experience, my upbringing, right? Like a lot of people actually don't ever want to look at this fact because they want to give their parents or their caregivers the benefit of the doubt, right? They did the best that they could. There's a concept called the good enough parent, and the good enough
Mm.
caregiving and the good enough partnership, which actually goes down into consistency and reliability elements around having those needs met. And with a parentified child, you have consistency on not having your own needs met and not doing so in a consistent manner that is reliable. And as a result of that, you neglect building of self. You might not even do that. You might not even know how to love yourself, but that might be something that might feel super foreign to you. And you do so because all of your concerns are about everyone else. You come last at the bottom of the list. So the relentless worry about other people, the degree of needing to take care of everyone else's needs even before thinking about your own, right? All of this can compound out into wild things that happen later on. And when you get to an age where you recognize, let's say you're in your mid 20s and it's like, I don't even know what I want. If I were to clarify my needs, I have no idea where to even start. That's a great indicator that you have become a parentified child.
A really good example of this is the show Shameless. The oldest sister, Fiona, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a
I
really
haven't.
good show. The father is like a severe alcoholic. The mother's addicted to substances and has severe like bipolar disorder. She's
Yeah.
not in the picture. So Fiona, the eldest daughter from the age of 5, had to start taking care of all of her siblings
Yeah.
and her father on top of it. When you're a parentified child, you're basically held responsible for the emotional well-being of your parents.
Hmm.
So, like, if your parents were ever angry and they told you it's your fault and you need to go be better so mommy and daddy can be happy, you're a parentified child. That is an example. You're basically being told and conditioned that your parents' emotional capabilities, their regulation, their emotional maturity is because of you. And you need to go figure out whatever it is you need to do so that mom, dad, whomever
Mm.
can be regulated and stable enough to take care of you
Yeah.
because you only deserve being taken care of if you can take care of mom and dad.
I have another client in mind who's a daughter of an immigrant family. So this shows up in parents who have been divorced, people who are working really, really long hours and don't have the time to give a lot of time and attention to household stuff, kids' needs, etc. Like where she has, because she speaks the native language and her parents don't, she's had to be the translator of everything. So she's had to learn how to pay the bills for the household. She's had to learn how to navigate taxes at like a really, really young age. And because the parents haven't learned how to speak English, even though they live in the US and have immigrated to the US, right? Like they rely on her and it's her fault if she wants to actually start to become autonomous, right? That's parentification. So it exists in so many different forms. And ironically, it's actually far more common than people ever recognize. And that's what makes
Yeah,
this so sad, is because the element of parentification that we often don't talk about or don't focus in on is, okay, this is an element. Now, how do I unwind from this parentification? What do I do when I feel as though everyone else's response or everyone else's well-being, even if I don't know them, is my responsibility before I even consider myself? How do you start to unwind that? That is what Evolve is here to do with people and for people. And that is, it's just a really, really important element to reflect. Do any of these kind of represent some of my experiences? And that's
100%.
where I'm going to leave our listeners to really start to contemplate. And in closing, my episode suggestion is going to be 302. No is a complete sentence. An indicator that you've been parentified is where you have a really difficult time saying no. B.
And when you felt the burden of responsibility for the well-being of your parents and your siblings and the other people in your life, when that was put on you, that's a huge sign. And mine is 282, what to do when your family won't change. Diving more so into the how-tos of this is a little bit further than what we're capable of doing on an episode like this, because every person is so different. So please, if you are struggling with this, do not hesitate to reach out. We have so many clients who are struggling with the same thing, and you're not alone in that. And there is help out there. So please reach out, and we will see you all soon. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.